everybody, I'm Julie Lalou and we're in my salon today here in London and we're going to be grooming Bee, who is a Lakeland Terrier. Bee is a pet Lakeland Terrier, so she's been neutered and she's clipped rather than hand stripped. They are supposed to be hand stripped, but once they get neutered, the coat does tend to change. The hormones will change the coat texture and it becomes softer and it becomes more difficult to hand strip. So the kindest thing to do is to clip her. So what we're going to be doing is clipping her in a breed standard profile, but obviously it won't be stripped as it should be. She's been washed today already and prepped, which means that she's had her pads clipped out, she's had her groin clipped, her ears are cleaned out, so she's ready for the grooming. What I'm going to be using on Bee today is a 7F blade, which gives quite a nice length, similar to the show style. And then I'm going to be using an 8.5 on her flat work. So when I talk about flat work, I mean the chest, over the shoulders, the neck, the head, and the rear, and the underside of the tail as well. Okay, so Bee's a lovely little dog, but she is a little bit nervous, so we just need to take our time with her. I'm going to start with a 7F blade, and I'm going to clip her from behind the head on the occiput, all the way down to the base of the tail, down over the rib cage and underneath, and down the back leg, similar to the pattern of a schnauzer. So I'm going to start with my 7F, one straight line from the occiput down the length of the back as far as the tail. And I run over that a few times just to make sure that I haven't missed any hair. Okay, once I've got that line, I'm coming from the back of the head down and over the shoulder. Trying as much as possible to follow the direction of the coat. Coming down over the rib cage to my lowest point. What I do is I look for her last rib and I'll take one blade all the way under at that point. Good girl. Good girl. And then I want to leave a little bit of hair in the tuck up. And I'll explain why in a minute. Good girl. Coming down now over the back thigh and over the rear. On the back thigh, I'm coming from my highest point here down to the hock. Again, in the direction of the coat, so not a straight line across, but downwards following the way the coat grows. Running over it as many times as I need to get it nice and smooth. So turning her around. Good girl. And repeat on this side. So now I've clipped out Bee's jacket. I'm going to move over to a shorter blade, an 8.5, which is quite a nice length again. And I'm going to be doing her flat work. So flat work is, like I said before, all the front, over the shoulders, the rear end, up the tail and the head. If she was to be hand stripped, which is the correct way of doing her, we would hand strip these areas much shorter than we would the jacket. That's why I'm using a shorter blade. For your simple pet trim, it is okay just to use a 7 all over, or even a 5 looks nice as well. You don't necessarily have to move down to a shorter blade, but I just prefer it. It's the way I like to do it. So, starting at the head, I'm going to come down her neck, clearing all that hair, coming right down to that leg, skimming over the chest, and then I'm going to come over the shoulders and again right down to the elbow. You can see it's not a huge difference in length from the 7, but it just gives it a slightly tighter look. It's important that you do come low enough on the leg. You don't want a leg that starts up by the shoulder. It should start down by the elbow. On the V of the neck, I just take it in reverse. Again, if I was hand stripping that, I would hand strip it very, very short. Good, good go. And my line for the flat work is from just behind the ear, down the neck. Good girl. And down onto her shoulder. It doesn't matter if the rosettes show, they're not too bad on her, but if they do, you can always chalk them up after. We want to leave just a little bit of hair hanging between the chest. Nothing should protrude, it should be a flat chest. Okay, moving on to her rear end. Again, same blade. I'm going to just clear all of that hair. Some owners might not like it quite as short here, so again you could use a slightly longer blade, but if you're doing the correct terrier trim, it does look nicer, slightly shorter. And my line for the flat work on the back is just from the tail straight down. I'm doing one clipper blade in the thigh, where you can see the coat changes direction, just to clear away the hair there. And then I'm going to do the whole underside of the tail. Good girl, Bee. Sometimes they can be quite sensitive about this, so you might need someone to give you a hand. She's pretty good. Good girl, Bee. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. When it comes to the tail, if they did have a bad tail set, you could leave a little bit more fill here just to bring the tail up further forward, but she's got a lovely tail set, so it's not needed on her. Okay, so once we've completed the clipping on Bee, we can now start to think about her legs, her furnishing, and her head. So the first thing I'm going to do on these legs is go around the feet. And for this, I'm just going to use a pair of curved scissors, just because it's a little bit easier to get nice round feet. They should have quite small, tight, compact feet. So you want to scissor them that way. Also, their toes should face forward. So if they do have slightly turned out legs, you want to try and hide that when you're doing their legs. So I'm just coming around these feet, making them as neat as possible and as compact as possible without showing the nails. I've already clipped underneath, so I don't need to worry too much about getting underneath them. When I do a foot, I go around it, then I get my comb and I pull everything to the side and scissor, make sure I haven't missed anything. Then I will pull everything to the front, and scissor again, and then everything to the inside. It's really important to get your feet right on a dog because you can't do a nice leg without having a nice foot. So nice, tight, compact feet. Once I've done the back one, I can do the same on the front. And she's a little bit titchy about her front feet, but if you've got a dog that really doesn't want to let you touch their front feet, you can always lift up the other leg gently, come around the foot. By lifting up the leg, she needs to keep that foot down in order to balance. Good girl. So again, pull everything to the side. Good girl. Good girl. Come on. Good girl. Pull everything forward. Steady. Good girl. Get the foot, pull it all down and take out anything sticking up from the back. Okay, so once you've done these two, you can turn her around to the other side. Okay, so once we've gone around the feet, we can start to trim up the legs. I'm going to start on the back leg. So we should have a nice clear leg, no hair on the thigh or coming up to the hock, but we should have some hair on the hock and some, oh, good girl. Good girl. We should have some hair on the hock and some nice stifle hair coming forward. What we don't want to do is make the mistake of taking off all the stifle hair. They need some nice coat left there to bring them in shorter. So by leaving a bit of tuck up and a bit of stifle hair and some hair on the back of the front leg, we can make the dog nice and square rather than taking that hair away and making the dog look longer. So I'm going to use chunkers for this, but you can use straights or thinners, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to come from my last rib and just tidy up my tuck up hair, blend it in if I need to. Good girl. Good girl, Bee. Stand. Make sure your dog's standing properly, because if they're facing the wrong way, you're never going to get the right shape leg. And then I'm going to just tidy up the ends on this stifle hair. I really don't want to take away much at all. Coming into a foot, and it should come into about halfway down the hock and then straight down. Again, I can blend it wherever I need to. Be good girl. I'm going to just pull that hair out and do an inside line as well. She doesn't grow very much hair or thick hair, so for her it's just a trim. Then looking at the hock area. On my hock, I just want a nice straight hock. So just a nice straight hock coming down into the foot. Pull that hair up and just tidy it up. Then turning her to the side, I want to look between the back legs, pull that hair out. And we're going to do a nice straight line coming down again to the toe on the inside. So you don't want any long hair sticking out here. It should really be a column coming straight down. You can also pull the hair up from this angle and just tidy it up. Good girl, turn around. Comb it out. You can't comb it too many times, so just keep combing it to make sure it's nice and neat. Okay, so just tidy that up. Moving on to my front leg. I start with my front line, so I will just scoop that hair up and coming straight down from the shoulder. I don't want any hair sticking out. I want it to be nice and flat coming down to the toe. Good girl. And again, pull it out, do it a few times, make sure you haven't missed any hairs. Straight down to the toe. Once we've done our front line, we can, good Gubby, fluff the hair up on the sides. And again, we want it to come flat, straight down from the body with nothing protruding. If you leave too much hair around the shoulder area, you're going to get a dog that looks like its elbows are sticking out. So you want a nice, smooth, flat leg. Pull it out again. Whenever you're doing tube legs, you really need to go over them as many times as possible just to make sure you haven't missed any hair. So once I've done my front line and my side line, I can do my inside. Good girl. Being a really good girl. And I'm just going to come again straight down. When you're doing tube legs, always try to scissor up or down, but obviously when you come to the inside, the only way you can really scissor is sideways. My personal preference is to not to lift the leg up and to scissor like that, because I don't think you can get the right shape, but I know some people do that and it does work for them, and that's fine. But I prefer to do it with the dog's leg down. So that when we're looking from the front, we've got a nice column with nothing that sticks out. Then I can turn her again to the side, and now I can do my back line. Good girl, Bee. So pull all that hair out. And we don't want to take too much off. Just enough to make it neat and tidy. She really does have quite a fine coat, so there's not a huge amount to scissor to make it look nice. If you wanted to make these legs look thicker, you could put some chalk in them. But as we said before, she's just a pet, so there's no need really. Good girl. Just blend it in where you stopped clipping. Good girl. And then make sure you comb it all the way from the inside. Good girl. Just going back to my other scissors just to tidy the foot. Okay, once I've done those two legs, I'm just going to tidy up her chest hair. So we've done the tuck up hair, then we did a straight blade through, so we've got no excess hair here, and I've just left a tiny bit of chest hair. On terriers, their chest should reach their elbow, so she's pretty well proportioned. Sometimes you might get a dog with a chest that's slightly higher up or slightly lower down, and in that case you would need to leave more or less chest hair, but hers is in pretty much the right place. So I'm literally just leaving a slight covering, coming straight up. So it's nice and tidy, but when I do look at her from the front, I have just a little bit of chest hair hanging between the legs. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, so once you've done that side of legs, you can turn her around and do the other side. Right, so now we've done her legs, we can concentrate on her tail and her head. So the tail, I have clipped the underside, if we remember, with the 8.5, but I like to scissor the rest of the tail. Now you can just clip this with a 7 and it would look absolutely fine, but I personally prefer it scissored. I think it just looks a little bit nicer. What you don't want is a big bushy tail. You just want a nice padded, stay there. It's not even quite a carrot tail. It's not quite as thick as a carrot tail. Turn around. So first thing I do is come up the sides, following the shape of the tail. At this point, if you're scissoring a tail and you've got any kinks in it, you might be able to try and hide them. And then up the other side. Good girl. If you've got a dog that's sensitive about having their tail done, you can either get someone to help you or you can use a belly strap. But she is pretty good. Good girl. And then once I've done the sides, put the tail down, fluff it up, and just scissor over the top. If you were looking to do a Lakeland for part of your City and Guilds Level 3 exam, it would be perfectly acceptable to just clip the tail. Stay there, good girl. Okay, so that's our tail done. Make sure it sits right when she holds it over her back. Now I'm going to work on her head. So I've clipped out the inside of the ears with a 40 blade. I haven't plucked them because she doesn't particularly like it and it's not really fair on her and she doesn't need it, they're nice and clean. What I'm going to do is over the top of the ears I'm going to use a 30. So quite short, they should be down to the leather. If they were stripped, they would be stripped right down to the leather. So just coming over the top of that ear. Right to the top. Yeah. When you are clipping ears, obviously always watch out that you don't catch the ear at all in any way. The best way is to clip out towards the outside edges of the ear, from the top out towards the edges. The same on the inside. If you were to clip the inside, make sure you're clipping out towards the edges, specifically over that little ear flap that we know we need to be careful of because it can catch so easily. Make sure you're going out. Same on the other ear, over the ear. And you see I come right out towards the edges and I push down. By pushing down I can get some of that hair off around the edges so I don't need to scissor quite so much. Same on the other side, use my fingers and just push off as much of that hair as possible. It is important that they have nice tight ears because it just completes the look. Okay, so once I'm happy with them clipped, I'll just get some scissors and I'll trim around them. So whenever we're trimming around ears, it's always very, very important to make sure you're trimming up towards the point of the ear. So I start at the side. If you scissor upwards, you're much less likely to catch the ear. Just using a gentle touch, and by scissoring upwards, my scissors will just be pushed away from the ear leather. Again, I'll turn the ear in my hand, lift it up and scissor upwards. Never ever down and into the ear. Make sure you get all that hair around the top. And now I'm going to use my 8.5 blade again, and I'm going to come from the brow bone. So I'm going to feel where the brow bone is on her head. It's just here. And I'm going to come from that point to the back of the head. What I don't want to do is come down onto the neck because I've been done on a longer blade. So I just want to come over the top of the head, again stopping where we stopped clipping at the occiput. Right over the top. Up to the ears. Be careful when you're coming up to the ears because you can catch that ear between your blades, so it's worth holding that ear back and making sure you get all the hair. Then coming onto the side of the head, I hold the ear back and I come in reverse from the ear, forward, and just skim off. So to my widest point of the cheek, and then skim forward. You can see I'm holding the ear nice and tight back. I'll come straight down there, and then from this seam, forward, and skimming off the side of the face. Same on the other side. The width ends up being roughly about a clipper blade. Then coming down under the face, there's a lot of confusion about this. People are unsure about whether it should come to the corner of the mouth or to the canine tooth, and it should just come to the corner of mouth. So I pull it forward as far as my corner of mouth and stop there. On a fox terrier, you're more likely to come right up to the canine tooth, but on our Lakeys and our Welshes, we keep it out by the corner of the mouth. Turn around, good girl. Make sure it is nice and clear, all underneath, really tidy under there. Okay, so that's my clipping on my Lakey head. Right, so when it comes to scissoring the Lakeland's head, there are lots of different ways of doing it. Some people will leave the full long and natural, others will scissor it in. I personally prefer on a pet that's been clipped to make it nice and scissored and neat and tidy. So I will certainly be blending it in, but I do know that there are other ways of doing it. We're still looking for our brick-shaped head, like all of our long-legged terriers. So when I look at this dog, what I want is from the cheek coming down for nothing really to be sticking out of that line, and the same on this side. And when I look from the top, I want it to be flat as well. So the first thing I do, pull that hair out, and I'm going to use my thinners for this. And I'm just going to blend in this corner of eye. Straight down, where we stopped clipping, making it look nice and tidy. And the same from the other side, so just blending forward from my cheek. Straight. What I don't want to do is come right in and take off all the eyebrow. I'm just coming straight from my cheek forward. Then I'm going to fluff this hair up and come in a dome shaped or an arch shaped across the top. So that any excess hair that's sticking up comes off. I can move over to my chunkers to give a slightly more sharp look. Stay. Good girl, Bee. When we look at a Lakey from the front, we don't want to see too much eye, but we do want to see a little bit, just the back end of the eye. And they should be able to see out quite easily as well. Anything that comes past the end of my nose, I just trim off without taking my beard. And then I'm going to fluff it up again and run over it one more time. If you do leave it a bit too heavy on pets, or you prefer to leave it heavier, you have to make sure you've got an owner that is going to be brushing it, because otherwise it will get matted. Right, so once I've done that, I can just move that centre fall out of the way, and I'm going to come onto my beard. So on the beard, I want to pull this hair down, and although we said we're going to take it to the corner of the mouth, it needs to be very blended at the corner of the mouth, so it is blended forward. So you can see I take a straight line and then my longest point starts at the canine tooth. Straight up, same on the other side. Good gubby. Always keep combing it because you're not going to be able to see the shape unless you keep it nice and combed out. And then I'm going to leave from the nose to the corner of the mouth, that section I'm going to hold in my hand and it's going to stay long, and I'm going to pull out the rest of the beard and I'm going to trim that around so that I have a little tubed shaped face that starts to appear. So I'm keeping that long bit in my hand and just trimming around. Pull it out again. Okay, so on the other side, and it should just all blend in. You should have no obvious sudden long bits of hair. It should all flow quite naturally. If we've got to the point where the beard is a little bit too long for an owner, you can just tidy that up a little bit. So looking from the side, we just want it to come forward and then get longer at the front. Good girl. Make sure we can see our nose. And the same on that side, so we can see it's a little bit long here. Just want to blend it in coming forward. Okay, and that is our finished Lakey head. So that's Bee the Lakey all finished. Obviously, as we said before, they should be hand stripped for show, or even, you know, for your pets they can be hand stripped. But a pet clip is nice as well, and it does give you a nice soft teddy bear look, which is quite sweet. So just to recap what we did with Bee today, we did a 7 on her body and her jacket. We did an 8.5 over her flat work, which is the neck, the shoulders and the bum and the underside of the tail. And we also used an 8.5 on her head, coming with the direction of the coat on top of the head and in reverse over the cheeks and under the chin and the neck. On her ears we used a 30 and a 40 on the insides, and then we scissored the rest. If we were going to be hand stripping, we would have hand stripped the entire dog. So we would even hand strip the legs, the head, the ears, everything. But as we said before, that's not appropriate for Bee. But she still looks lovely. A clip Lakeland is a lot less work than a hand strip Lakeland. It's a lot easier to maintain. They can be groomed every sort of, 6 to 8 weeks without a problem, as long as they're brushed in between. So really the home maintenance for a Lakeland is very easy. She just needs to be brushed every day and the odd bath to keep her smelling nice. But other than that, it's a pretty low maintenance trim because the hair's not too long anywhere.